Excellent. Well, welcome to the Apex Sniper Thrive in 2021 Be the Sniper or Be the Target webinar. And we want to help you thrive in 2021. Got to throw up our standard risk disclosures. There's risk involved in investing. Know what you're doing before you do it, etc. Okay. Some reminders. Chart Trader. So, who has got the new Chart Trader? Who noticed it went away? I saw someone today. He's like, I've had it. So if you go to apexinvesting.net and sign in, it takes a second here. It's going slow on my end with the. There we go. And you go to sign up for any plan or product, then it'll be on that page at the bottom. I don't know if it'll show up on mine since I have it. It might show up on mine. And then there's the chart trader. The chart trader is not free. It is currently half off. You get lifetime access for $97. So it is not included for free. Okay? So somebody said we texted you not to remind you. That's all, John. But that's where you get the chart trader. That's the easiest place to go to sign up for it. You can also go to apexinvesting.com/chart trader plugin to watch the video on it. Another tip I wanted to go over was a tool we have. If you type in forum.apexinvesting.com and then type in dimension, you'll see an exact clock sync automation essential. And it downloads the software called Dimension 4. And what that software does, it's very simple. It syncs your clock, and it syncs it better than Windows. And sometimes you may notice you have different bars, or you have maybe you have something different like different OD numbers. That would be why, is because of that. So that's free to use and download, so you can download that. Question on the chart trader, is it for two computers? Right now with the special, it's $97 for two computers. So if you want to see your entries on the chart, Denzel, all you got to do is right click on the chart, click on data series, and scroll all the way down and say show text and markers. Okay. All right, so we got that covered. Earnings season. So who knows that we're in earnings season? If you're in the room today, you probably heard me announce several times that Netflix had their earnings coming out. And if you go onto the main menu and then you scroll down to news calendar, then we update this for you every quarter. And you can see the major company earnings that are coming out, the dates they're coming out, and the times that their earnings are being released. Why do you think that might be important? Like today, Netflix came out at 4 o'clock. Why do you think it might be important for you to check that for the next month? Hey, it's a massive market movement. You know, Facebook, Microsoft, Netflix, things like that are going to cause a lot of movement. Amazon. So make sure you're aware of when they come out. Some of them come out before the close. Do you think you want to be in when the market is going haywire from a earnings announcement? No, you do not. So would it be wise to check this, what we have laid out for you? And I've tracked the exact times they come out. You don't find this stuff if you search on Yahoo. So they'll say like when they are going to do their conference call, but they don't say when they're going to send out the wire of the results of their quarter. It also has the news on it, but you have that already inside Ninja. Again, you find that under account menu links, under the news calendar. So that's something that you need to check each day. Yeah, some will make the market move more than others. So it depends upon what their percentage is. Netflix had a great earnings announcement and we saw the market fly up. And it's only like a little about 2% of the market. Microsoft is 10% of NASDAQ. Do you think that's going to move the market? So Apple, 10%. And they come out, now Apple comes out at 430, Microsoft comes out at 405. Okay, Facebook is 5% of the market. That's obviously going to make the market move. Okay, so please check that. And I'll try to help you remember in the mornings. But, if you're on in the afternoon, you didn't hear me, then, you need to check that. Okay, there's also morning earnings on there too. So tomorrow is Inauguration Day. For better or for worse, wherever you stand, it is Inauguration Day. Okay? So, what to expect? We have no idea. All right? We got 25,000 troops, armed troops on the ground. We got them, searching for people who are laying down IEDs and pipe bombs and all sorts of stuff. And which way does the earnings season make the market move? They make it move big one way or the other. So, you need to be very calm in your trading tomorrow. The percent of the market is on the news calendar. If you scroll down, it actually says right there. 10%. That's what that column is, the weight. So some people will stay out. Some people are going to be watching it. Some people are going to boycott it. But it is going to be Inauguration Day, so just trade with a light hand and don't go nuts tomorrow, okay? I'm not going to say don't trade, but I am going to say be very disciplined in your trading. Inauguration ceremony kicks off at noon. So, again, it kicks off at noon tomorrow. Can you show your results from today? Yeah, give me a second. So there's my P&L for today and all the different accounts that I trade. So, had a fantastic day. Definitely thriving in 2021. Tomorrow there is a Lilu discount. So check out our Facebook group. Again, check out our Facebook group and your email. We're going to be sending out a code. I'll also post it in the room tomorrow where you can get a Lilu evaluation, a 50K evaluation for only $51. Up to 3 of them. Okay? So again, we want you to thrive in 2021. That's going to start with your self-awareness, like we talked about last week, where John went over that. How'd y'all like that webinar last week? Y'all enjoy that? If you did not watch it, definitely go back and watch it, okay? You can buy the evaluation tomorrow, but can you start at a later date? You can, but your 30 days before renewal starts the day you buy it. Is there any webinars on how to manage your Lilu paid account? Yes. So if you go to apexinvesting.com/funding, I teach how to help you pass, tips to help you pass the Lilu funding. So you want to know your strengths and weaknesses. It goes to full price after 30 days. You want to know your strengths and weaknesses. You want to, know your trading characteristics, what animal you are, and what animal you should be. Again, watch last week's webinar. Ask on each trade, what characteristic were you showing on that trade? Right? And journal. Note, identify any areas that you need to work on. Okay? And start now again to prepare for Thrive 2021. We have set the dates. And it looks like they're going to be March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So we'll be putting up, I'm working on the website for it right now. Yeah, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And we'll release the information on that here in a couple weeks. Here in February, okay? So we got more info coming. You will not miss the announcement, I promise. You know that we never shy on announcements. Again, it's going to be in March. We'll send out even more details on it in February. There will be an early registration discount for the first 100 people. So make sure to be looking out for that. We're going to be talking about order prints rejection. It's going to be a live online event because of COVID. Otherwise, it would be in person. We're going to be talking about order prints absorption rejection. I asked John if he had a favorite trade, what would it be? And he instantly knew the answer. He's going to be teaching you his favorite trade, and it is extremely simple. And if he had to only choose one trade, this is the trade he would do. And we don't teach it anywhere else. So he's going to be teaching that during Thrive. Lori's going to be teaching our no-brainer trades. I'm going to go some more into trading psychology. Okay? Who could use some extra training on trading psychology? And then we got some walls. She's going to go into, how she gets her walls to help you understand them more. We may talk about rose level bounces, and a big piece, we're going to talk about combining simplicity with sniper to help you improve your accuracy. So to help simplicity helping you on sniper and sniper helping you on simplicity. So both me and John are going to be training on that. Does that sound good? Be a full 3 days right there. Exactly. Bringing it all together for you to help you thrive in 2021. So, y'all want to do some chart review? All right. Scroll way back to this morning. We had a lot of people do well. We had some people had a rough time. Which one were you? Did y'all have a rough time or do well, or how'd you do? Great day, great morning. 3-0, had 3-2, didn't trade today. I had a rough time. I did good and I quit. Finished it even. I had 5 wins. I had 3-0. I was in the money. Had a rough time. I broke even. I did 3-0. I broke the rules. Blew my account. That's a rough one. No loss. Good day. Rough day. Good day. Have been doing good, but I lost today. Not proud of my day. I had 4-0 on 4 accounts. 3-0. No impulse trades. Nice. 2-0. 3-0. 1-0. All right, so David says he did 3 million. That's better than any day I've done. Still trying to get the oscillation detector figured out. Well, ask me about it in the morning. I'll be glad to help explain anything to you. 3 wins, no losses, a little up and down. All right. So we had quite a few of you do well. Some of you had a rough day. Let's go over it, and let's see what you could have done better or what you did right. I'm glad you're enjoying the trade copy repeater. All right, so some of y'all, I found out some people don't know this, but I'm usually on about 8:30, 8:35 in the morning. So some people thought I just started at 9:35. I usually get on about 8:30, 8:35 in the morning. So if y'all didn't know that, and I'm usually on till at least 11 Eastern Standard Time. Yep. All right, so let's check it out bar by bar, okay? All right, so right here, do we have a trade right there? Nope, no trade at all. Antonio, the one on apexinvesting.com/funding. If you want to give him that link, John. So, yeah, basically we just don't have a trade. There's no, I mean, DR's low. There's nothing there. So if we move forward. Now, we had sort of a slow morning this morning, starting out. What did we have going on? What did I announce this morning in the room that was happening today that was really important, that was driving the market? You just typed in the chat window, Randy. Yep, I announced Yellen. So Yellen was having her hearing confirmation for being by head of the Treasury. And so I was listening to that the entire time this morning. And it was sort of funny to watch because just about every time she talked, the market went up. And every time one of the senators talked, the market went down. And I said, be aware of that. And I posted the link up. So, because she's going to, pump the money and, she was all about spending, spending, spending. All right, what about right here? Do we have a trade here? Got 3 clusters, no trade, and it's against DR. I mean, there's just no setup, right? What about right there? Do we have a trade right here? There you go. I was waiting for somebody to say that. Dark zone. All right, so when we're in the dark zone from 9:25 to 9:35, we don't have any trades. When you're looking at a filter TX, what is a low number for a dev? If the pretty much if the level is below the lower yellow line for a filter TX. Dark zone means don't trade 5 minutes before the open or 5 minutes after the open, or 5 minutes before or after a news announcement. So this is especially important on indices because all the stocks open up, and so there's a lot of orders just sitting there, early market orders or orders placed people on overnight, stuff like that, that comes in. So I'm saying not below the upper line, below the lower line, below the lower yellow line. All right, so now that we got that question answered, let's go fast forward to 9:35. Where the market was going nuts when it opened up. All these bars are just like in a couple minutes. All right, now we're at 9:35. All right, do we have a trade here? I have my lower DR level set to, I want to say it's 0.5 or 0.6. Yeah, it's 0.5. We do have ODD, but what's in the way? Yeah, we got a deviation level and a wall, both in the way. So do we want to take a trade right into a deviation level, a wall? No. May work out, but we don't want to take it. Okay, what about right here? SLZ, a very strong trade often. Coming right off. I mean, it's literally laying itself on the wall. So yes, I would say good, and I would say if you wanted to be careful, you could try to take profit right before that wall. Do y'all see that? So you can let it go down, and then take profit right before it hits the wall would be a good thing. You don't need a trapped Xbox on SLZ trades. It's the only trade you don't need a trapped Xbox on. On the DR, I'm saying if the DR is below 0.5, I won't take a filtered TX. Just a filter that only applies to the filtered, not to the other TXs. All right. Well, it's because I'm moving the chart, not the pointer. I mean, I can put it right here. Trying to keep it out of the way. Let's see here. Move on down. So we got one. Okay, right there. Is that a valid trade? According to the rules. And no defined setup. So, some people that are more advanced might take it off of double mini magnets there, but it's really not a defined setup. So, no trade. What about right there? Yep, no setup, no ODD. There's not ODD there. Yeah, I'll move the pointer out of the way. It's not really serving a purpose right now. We're looking at the last bar. And it's in, yeah, 2-3 bar chop. Glad we didn't take that one. What about right there? No. That does not meet any of our rules. What about right here? Yes, I would take an SLZ. And again, you could always take it like one tick before the dynamic magnet, which is pretty much where the take profit was anyway. It was off a level. It was off a dynamic magnet. So you can take an SLZ off a dynamic magnet. And that is one of the 5 major levels. So it's important to have those set to high and 30 days loaded. So you can see them there. But you see that orange level it came off of? That's an important level. All right, so we got 2 trades. What about right here? Is that a trade? Nope. Same high, not a trade. What about this one? Yep, and 2 bar chop. Good job, Robert. No trade. For a lot of reasons. I mean, it's going into a dev, going into a wall. Doesn't meet any rules. All right, what about right here? Explain the last trade. I can scroll back. It doesn't meet any single rule that we have. It's not an ODD. It's not an HDD. It's not a filtered TX. It's not an ETX. So it's no trade. Where do you have a description of all the tools so you know what they all mean? Under Understanding the Chart, Section 4. So before you get to Section 5, if you watch Section 4, it'll explain the charts to you. All right, so let's get back to this SLZ. Where did that thing go? There it is. Well, you got one cluster below it, but the other two clusters, it has to be two clusters within 3 bars. One cluster is above the entry, the other cluster is above the entry. Only the third cluster is below the entry. So yeah, you could take this trade. You don't have 3 clusters below you to the left. And again, it's an SLZ trade. So that's a star on the previous bar with a low volume score on the previous bar and a ZOI on the previous bar or the bar before that. So we've actually had 3 SLZs alone would have got you your 3-0 this morning in less than 10 minutes. Not too shabby, right? I mean, let's keep going, but it's not trading into a cluster. Let me point it out again here. This cluster is above the entry. This cluster is above the entry. Only this cluster is below the entry. So you're only trading into one cluster. The clusters are the yellow. The very first SLZ would probably have been impossible to catch. The other two were easy to catch. All right, we got another SLZ. This counts as being off of a level. If it's close to a level, it counts as being off of a level. Yes. An SLZ. This is the 4th one we've had this morning. They were all over the place. There's a star. Right there, the star. The low volume score number. With a ZOI that prints on that bar or the bar before. And you'll see a blue detector show up at the bottom. So that dot means SLZ, that blue means SLZ. So if you have the trade assistant, the dot shows up. If you don't have the trade assistant, or you do have the trade assistant, the blue marker shows up. So make sure, Victor, that you do go through and watch the Understanding the Charts videos, and that'll help everything make a lot more sense. Yeah, it actually says potential SLZ trade on NQ. It actually says it out loud. SLZs are often trend reversals. As you can see, that one reversed quite a bit. All right, so what about this one? SLZs are very accurate. Now this one would have been an ODD. So you probably would have taken it. Okay? And on that one, it went against us. All right? Yeah, I just know because I know what the OP was after it because I clicked over to see. So it had the OD on it. It just moved over whenever it chopped. All right. But remember, we've already got our 3 because we had 4 SLZs so far, and one of them would have been hard to get. The other 3 were easy to get. So we've already hit our 3-0. If you'd have went for the 4th trade, what would have happened? You would have lost. Don't go for that fourth trade. Stop at your 3-0. That last one, I would have been tempted to put my stop below the dynamic magnet. Yep. Which would have been just a bigger loss in this case. Oh, actually, no. That is a great point. Good job. Who is that? Corey? So kudos to Corey for recognizing that. Being that close to the dynamic magnet. You would have put it behind the dynamic magnet. The trade actually still would have won if you would have adjusted your stop to being close. Looking for cover. That's right. So, way to go, Corey. Gold star. So, if you would have traded it like Corey, you would not have lost on that trade this morning. All right, what about right here? Not OD. The OD number is too high. And it's going right into a dynamic magnet, so we don't take the trade. And had to break through a mini magnet, yeah. It had way too much going against it. All right, we got another SLZ. Get a star with a low volume score in the bar before. Yep, definitely off of a level, close to a level. And it's an ETX. Bonus points for Seth. And it's an ODD. Bonus points for Christopher. So we got a ETX SLZ ODD trade. Who wants to take that one? Boom, boom. Profitable trade. All right. SLZs were rocking it this morning, weren't they? I mean, can we focus on SLZs? Not every day's like this. Some days you go a whole day without an SLZ. If you're completely new to trading, where should you start, Patrick? I would start first in the foundations section near the bottom. There's a foundations section, and it explains what futures are. And then from there, just start from the top and go down and ask lots of questions. Oh, there is a good point. Somebody brought up that this trade had double clusters right there, which usually does mean chop. So that would have been another reason not to take this trade. We'll cover that in the... Reggie was asking about 30-tick tips, like that I used this morning. I was using the 30-tick chart to help me trail. I'll cover that in Thrive. All right, so SLZs have been literally all the trades we've had this morning that were valid that won there. So all right, what about right here? Do we have a valid trade? Nope, ODD is too high. ODD is too high. And we got double clusters. Oh, what about here? So filter TX. It's got a cluster below it. I don't think it was HDD yet on here. Would have went against you. Can I emphasize enough how important it is to stop at 3? Wouldn't really chop at that point. Are y'all getting the point of why you should stop at 3? Well, one purple bar doesn't stop you from taking a trade. Who regrets not stopping at 3 today? And not taking SLZs? Is that something you can control tomorrow? If you're only 1-0, you should have been you should have got more trades. Be the lion. Get in there and take those trades. And if you're not getting them, use your chart trader. Use Markers Plus to help you. Okay, what about this third bar swing? Would we take this third bar swing? Remember, thriving in 2021, identify those weaknesses and areas to improve. I would not take this third bar swing because we already had coil chop before it, which is one of the rules. No coil chop before a third bar swing. So since we already had coil chop before it, and I really want it like right off. I want it to be like the third bar. Off the bottom or off the top. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? And that one did not work out. All right, here we go. We got a ODD. Valid trade. Yes, great ODD, 51%. Winning trade. All right, do we got a trade here? No, we got chop. Would have worked, but would not have liked it. What about here? We got a trade here? Nope. All right, what about right there? Can't quite tell what the OD number is. Last trade was no due to coil, due to having 2 to 3 bar chop. Only got one cluster. Insufficient data. Okay. That might have been an ODD that might have got you. Those clusters were below the entry price. Now, would it have got you if you would have stopped at your 3-0? Okay. I'm hammering this point home. I'm trying to be like John today and repeat myself over and over and over and over again. No comment, David. John's mic isn't working, so I can get away with more. Let's see, that one might have been an ODD also. I'm not sure. So that might have got you too. If you kept trading after your 3-0. Can't tell. Okay. This one, I doubt would have been. So, yep, no trade. Okay, we got an elevator here. Do we take an elevator this late into a trend? Nope, too late. What about that? Double TX with all that choppiness. Coil, like, I don't mind coil chop if it's only 3 bars, but having that 2 bar, like, that's way too much chop. All right, do we have a trade here? That elevator was way more than 3 to 10 bars into a trend. Look at this thing. It's been going down since there. It's like 40 bars into the trend. No, would not have taken it. What about here? Nope, we had a lot of volume going there. What about here? Nope. Had a lot of movement. What about here? Nope, not an ETX. Didn't really get a lot of ETXs today. Well, what about there? I didn't see an SLZ. Nope. What about here? Going into a dynamic magnet. The mini magnet or paw is always going to form at the top or bottom of a bar. It just has to be within 2 ticks of another mini magnet, paw, ZOI, or I block. Yeah, that's not an ETX because it's a dynamic magnet. It's not one of the OP levels. You could try to range bound trade it, but you would have regretted it. Yeah, what about here? ODD. Coming off a wall and a dynamic magnet. All right, winner. There we go. Yep, that was a valid trade. It has a trapped order. It wouldn't have this black detector down here if it didn't have a trapped order. What about right here? Doesn't matter if there's a mini magnet in the way. A mini magnet doesn't stop you from taking a trade. A dynamic magnet may stop you from taking a trade. You got chop and you're right into a dynamic magnet. And DR is under 0.5. And it's a filtered TX. So we got a lot of things going against us on that trade. Glad we didn't take it. What about right here? Got a nice ODD going on. Got room before the dynamic magnet. There it goes. Gotcha. Because you traded past your 3. All right, what about here? Nope. What about right there? Filter TX. DR is under 0.5. What about this for a third bar swing? Coming off the exact same low off double mini magnets. I would take that trade. The exact same low off double mini magnets, I would be looking for an excuse to go long. $10.20 you. Okay. There we go. What about right here? Nope, no trade. What about right there? Coil chop, no trade. What about right here? Nope, no trade. Doesn't equal any of our rules. What about here? No trade. What about here? It's going into double mini magnets. And 2 3-bar chops, so therefore it's an invalid double TX. Very good. What about right here? At best, there you go. I can't tell if it was an ETX or not, because there's a mini magnet there already. You definitely could have done a range-bound trade on it. But you would have been going into, let's look left. Got this cluster, which is right at that level, and you got a cluster here, and you got a cluster here. I wouldn't be tempted to take the trade. That's not HD because you made a higher high than the last pullback. You'd had to make a lower high with a bigger number. It's higher than, this high is higher than that high. What about right here? Ranges take a lot of experience, and I recommend you avoid them to begin with. Nope, 2 to 3 bar chop. What about here? Nope. What do we got here? Anything? Nope. What about there? Anything there? What about here? There's some training on ranges, but not a whole lot because it takes it's one of the things that's hard to train. It's a lot of experience. That's why we teach you more to trade these trades specifically and what to watch out for to not take. That trade is not a HDD, it's not an ODD, it's not an ETX, it's not a filter TX. Oh, we got an SLZ. So you could take that one and probably take your profit right before that mini magnet. There you go. It's right where it was. So the take profit was right before the mini magnet. So you would have saw that if you would have had the live on because, right, you would have had the actual levels. So y'all see what there's, I mean, SLZs have just been owning it today. What about down here? What disqualifies an SLZ? If you're trading right into a major level, a stack, or double mini magnets, no trade. Meaning your take profit is well beyond the major level. What about here? Nope. I missed one. Anything there? Wish you could see what Simplicity is doing. We'll, like I said, we'll combine a lot of that in the Thrive event. Nope, nothing there. All right, and that's 11 o'clock. So one thing that hopefully y'all learned today is SLZs are a trade that you should know. Okay? 3-0 is when you should stop. We had like, I want to say 9 winning trades. I could be off by 1 or 2, but I think we had 9 winning trades and we would have had like 2 losers had we kept trading past our 3. The only trade that requires DR is a filtered TX. So SLZs don't require it, and neither does any other trade but a filtered TX. Apparently, we just had. Well, that's not an SLZ. Somebody said SLZ winner just now, because it's not off a major level. It has to be off a dynamic magnet, a flux, a deviation, double mini magnets, or a stack. I would focus more on ODD than DRD, Seth. This red line is a flux. If you see red or blue lines that go all the way to the right but don't have a price marker, then they're a flux level. All right, so did y'all get a couple things out of today? A filtered TX requires DR. Only a filtered TX requires DR. You learned SLZ's rule? I'd say that's probably one of Lori's favorite trades. A double TX needs DR if it is trending, but not if it's range bound. Good point. The question on SLZ, if it's not, let's see, I gotta stop the thing here. If it's not on a master level, but it's ODD or HD, could I take it? I wouldn't take it unless it met up with the whole setup rules. Tony said he learned to start on time and stop at 3. Yeah, like, don't start like at 10 or 11. Like, I mean, you just missed half the good trades. What's the easiest setup? I think they're all pretty easy. But, I mean, SLZs are pretty easy. Filter TX is really simple. That's probably the simplest one. I agree with you, David. Yeah, Edward, to understand the terminology, like again, make sure to watch Understanding the Charts under Section 4. Because it explains what all the terminology means. Okay, without that, you're just going to be lost. Like if you, everybody wants to jump into the setups in Section 5, but without going through Understanding the Charts, it's just going to look like the Matrix to you. Are flux levels tradable? If they're with an SLZ. At nighttime, when do you like to trade? I'll often start at 6. If I do trade at night. I traded last night. Made like $1,000 an account. I called out several trades last night. I do not know, Paul. Either way, you got a flux level. You won't have the dot, squares, and triangles on your chart unless you have the trading assistant. I love third bar swings and elevators. The biggest trick on those is right near the beginning of a trend. If you don't do it near the beginning of a trend, you're going to get hammered on them. Like right at a new low or new high is what I mean. Well, again, you can see them all down here. But yeah, that's the benefit of having the trading assistant is it plots all the stocks and diamonds and all that fun stuff for you. Yeah, it comes at you really fast, Vivian. She's talking about how fast the market can go and trying to keep up with everything. The more you learn the setups, you learn to actually see the setups in advance versus waiting till the bar closes and it's too late. So like you see an Xbox forming and then you go, okay, are there any obstructions? Like you just start going through all the questions in your head really quick. And like John asked, like we go over 5 top questions to ask yourself in one of the webinars. And you ask those questions over and over and over again. Yeah, with the TA, you'd have been finished in 10 minutes this morning. So speed is your problem, then you may want to get the trading assistant or at least the chart trader. I'm not quite sure what you're asking, Joe, but I mean, one of the best ways to practice is to do what I just did. Scroll back on the chart and then go forward 1 bar at a time with the right arrow key. Yeah, there is no trial on the TA. What are those little red marks? They are OPAR and OPR. Let's see. Yeah, there aren't a lot of third bar slings or elevators. That's good to focus on one chart. Why does the TA move out of order? It is a weird issue with Ninja. If you go in and just change like the color or the wording of something in any setting on the indicators, it'll put them all in order for you. Have you seen where a trapped Xbox shows up then disappears? Yep. That's one reason why I like the TA, because it won't fire the order off if the trapped Xbox isn't there at the very end of the bar. Yeah, I bet one thing Don's saying is like he definitely sees we're going back and practicing like bar by bar. And it's real easy because all I'm looking for is I'm doing this. I'm just hitting the right arrow key, and I'm just looking for a detector at the bottom. And then I just stop for a second and I look, okay, what should there be? And if you do that, if you'll do that every single day, you will literally train your eyes to see this stuff a lot faster. On the TA, you can either hit F5 or you can go into your indicators and you can change like anything. Like you can scroll down here and, pick something and just change the color of something. Like from that green to this green or whatever. And hit OK and it'll put it in order. But you can try it in F5 first. If F5 doesn't work, then you can try changing like one color on something. Just slightly. And it'll put it where you want it. What are the most frequent setups? It really just depends on the day. Like today we had a lot of SLZs. Some days we barely have any. Or some days we have a bunch, but none of them are on major levels. All right, well that wraps up our webinar for tonight. Last couple reminders for you here is make sure that you are in the elite room, that you start on time, that you stop at your 3, ask questions, share your charts, learn, grow, be engaged in the room. I would say maybe 3% of traders can make it without being highly engaged. So you're putting yourself in a 97 percentile chance of failing if you're not being engaged in the room. Victor, how do you use what setup to use on a certain time of day? You don't determine what setup to use. I take the first 3 setups that come up. I don't look for certain ones. I just look for whichever one comes up. That's why you have multiple setups. All right, y'all have a great evening. I will see you tomorrow morning. I really appreciate y'all taking the time and trusting us. Y'all have a good evening.